Hello YouTube, welcome back or welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little different, but I'm actually really excited to film this video because I think it'll be pretty useful for the people following this channel, and it's definitely something that I want to continue doing, probably a little bit differently than I'm doing it today, but we have to start somewhere. I get a surprising number of DMs from random people through the internet, either through the comments on my YouTube videos or through DMs on Instagram. And when I say surprising, I mean I'm surprised that people on the internet want my advice / perspective on something that they're dealing with in their life. I think it's really cool and I feel really honored. And at the same time, I don't know your complete situation. I'm not there with you. I'm not living it. So what I say is really just to challenge your perspective and give you my personal thoughts from a neutral standpoint, and shouldn't be the end all be all for any life situation that you're dealing with. But I thought it would be really fun to read out some of the DMs I've gotten, some of the situations that I've responded to, obviously keeping everyone anonymous because I don't want to infringe on anyone's privacy. Ideally one day I'll have enough people watching this channel where I can do like Q&As and like Sam chats where you send in your life struggles and I just kind of speak on them. But let's be honest, not that many people watch this channel yet. So enough blabbering, let's get started. It's kind of funny looking through all the DMs. They usually start with like, I feel kind of weird asking you because you don't know me and I don't know you, but I watch your YouTube videos and I found your Instagram, so here we are. And then they proceed to tell me their entire life story. And don't get me wrong, I love it, but it's also just such a wild situation. This first person starts off saying, it's really weird to ask you because you don't know who I am, but you seem like you know what you're talking about in your videos. Keyword seem. She basically explained that she wants to eventually be friends again with her ex. They've been apart for around 3 months and they work together, so they interact quite a bit. The kicker is that when they broke up, he blocked her on everything. He said he didn't want anything to do with her. He wanted a clean break. But since then, because they've been working together and kind of bantering back and forth, he's unblocked her and she's unsure if she should refollow him or not. So I guess her dilemma is, should I refollow now that we've kind of rekindled and established this like workplace, fun, casual relationship, or should I respect what he originally told me when we broke up? My thoughts on this is that people's mind changes by the second. You can't hold on to what somebody said 3 months ago, let alone 2 weeks ago, because minds can change so quickly. It happens to me all of the time. So all you can do is try to trust your judgment, yes, based on what you know of that person and the history with that person, but also factoring what's happening now. If he seems comfortable around you, then he's probably also comfortable with you being around him in a social presence as well. And if he's not, he seems like the person that will make that clear or ask you to unfollow him or reblock you. I say this all the time to my friends, but it's only weird if you make it weird. If you continue acting like there's this weird tension between you, there will be weird tension between you, and the only way to break it is to shoot your shot and try to act as if things are normal. It starts to get tricky when you start assuming or trying to guess what that person's reaction is going to be. There's no way to know, so just do what you want to do and see what their reaction is and pivot what you're doing based on their reaction. Okay, this next person starts with, I'll try and keep it short, and then proceeds to send me a novel. So let me spark notes this to try and speed this process up. Okay, the spark note story is that her and her boyfriend broke up and they had been on and off for a little bit. And the reason that they broke up is because she felt that the relationship was quite one-sided. She felt she was putting more effort. They would have a good day together, but he wouldn't put any effort in to communicate with her outside of actually seeing each other in person. And she just kind of felt let down by the relationship, even though she had really strong feelings for this person. Frankly, good for you for recognizing that you deserve more. But if you watch my How to Be Friends with an Ex video, she references the fact that I mentioned that a blackout period is strongly recommended. And by blackout, I mean you don't see or speak to each other for a certain amount of time so that you can reset your routine and focus on a new relationship, which would be friendship. Anyways, they have been doing their blackout period and she believes that they should be friends because they were friends before they started dating, which is a huge plus if you're trying to be friends with an ex. But because she had such strong feelings for this person, she feels that when she sees this person, it's going to be really hard for her to separate those emotions from their newfound friendship. She's worried that her reasoning for wanting to see him is to make herself feel better from the hurt that she's experiencing from the relationship, and not so much as like a, we're just friends now, there are no feelings attached. So basically she's still feeling really let down, she's still feeling hurt, and she has that yearning feeling for him to be in her life, but she's unsure at what capacity. What I responded back with is that a benchmark for a blackout period is super helpful. So for her it was 3 weeks, but at the same time you have to recognize that 3 weeks is just some arbitrary time that you threw out there that you thought would be enough time to kind of get over that person and reset yourself in your routine. But it's also really important to note that that benchmark can be inaccurate for how you're actually feeling at any given point. So 3 weeks might go by and you might still be completely heartbroken, and vice versa. 2 days could go by and you could be completely over the relationship. It's so hard to predict how you're going to be feeling in a given amount of time, knowing that emotions fluctuate so much and so many things can factor in to how you might be feeling. So I basically told her to adjust her expectations and think about whether she needs to go back to the drawing board and start the blackout period again. Because in my opinion, having so many thoughts where you're unsure of what you want, what you're feeling, can really misinform your next step. And so giving yourself extra space to have those emotions kind of settle within you before making the next move can be extremely helpful. I also said to her that by waiting until you have a clearer mind, you're kind of setting yourself up for a more level-headed approach and more level-headed, rational reactions to anything that might happen and anything that will happen in the future. I said that I don't think there should ever be a rush to dive into a friendship, especially because in my opinion, it was a very hard task to get to the point of being friends with my ex, and it has continued to be hard in different aspects of my life outside of that relationship. So there should never be a rush to kind of get there, because it is a long, taxing process that ultimately doesn't work for a lot of people. But giving yourself time to focus on what you need and to heal is really what's going to set you up for the best success. She told me that it was amazing advice. Thank you so much. She also mentioned after I replied to her DM that she was considering seeing him to kind of signal to her whether or not friendship was what she needed or not needed. And while I understand what the thought process is there, and probably something that I would have thought of once upon a time, I also think that leaning on an external factor, in this case it was the ex-boyfriend, to signal to you whether you feel better or don't feel better can be a little unstable. Because leaning on somebody to feel better doesn't necessarily mean that you want them as a friend. It could be that you're looking to them for companionship or to fix your loneliness or to avoid change, etc., etc. But by doing so, you're kind of inhibiting that natural rebuild of the relationship with yourself. And it's much more stable to lean on an internal factor or yourself to be that source of happiness, stability, reliability, and all those things. So that's what I kind of told her in the DM. I was like, I understand your thought process, but also I have a little red flag with that as well. Okay, so this guy DM'd me saying that him and his girlfriend recently broke up because she wasn't feeling it, and he wanted my opinion on what she meant by not feeling it. Pretty much told him if it were me, if I were using not feeling it as a excuse or a reason as to why a relationship's not working out, it's probably because my feelings towards that person are not growing and or decreasing. So my goal for a relationship, especially when you're first starting out, is to continue growing with that person, both like personally but also as a relationship. So are your feelings growing? Are you learning more about them? Are you experiencing new things together? Are you constantly growing as a couple? And if it hasn't been a super long time, or you don't feel like you've fulfilled that kind of plethora of experiences and feelings that you want to experience with your life partner, it can be really discouraging, and you can feel yourself kind of pulling away from that person and in turn not feeling it. I also mentioned that some people get into a relationship because when you first start seeing somebody and they're new and they're exciting and you're getting along really well and you feel compatible, it can be really exciting and you jump into it, and then a few months later, a year later, you realize that you yourself were not even really ready for a relationship or a commitment in general. So I mentioned that some people just kind of reflect and they realize that once all the excitement dies down or the honeymoon phase ends, which I have a video on that, so I'll link it up there, they start to realize that like, oh, am I actually like cut out for a relationship? Because they start thinking long term. Like, am I ready to be tied down for the rest of my life? I'm not feeling it. He also mentioned that it kind of came out of nowhere and he didn't see it coming. And I pretty much said from my experience that if it feels like it's out of nowhere, it probably means that one person was feeling the relationship while the other person was kind of sitting in their feelings for a while on their own. I say that from experience and it sounds pretty bad, but a lot of the times you're kind of trying to figure out these feelings for yourself without expressing them to your partner, because you obviously don't want them to worry or to freak out, and you have no idea what you're feeling right then and there. But for it to come out of nowhere is likely not the case for the person who is actually doing the breaking up. Some people are also just not compatible. You could be dating someone and realize there's this really big gap that's a priority for you to fulfill and they're not meeting it, and you can just be like, listen, this ain't it. I gotta go. There are so many different nuances and things that people are looking for in a partner, and to tick all of those boxes is actually an extremely difficult feat. So if anything, not feeling it encompasses a really, I guess, common problem between people who are dating and why a lot of breakups happen. Then he proceeded to say, "Hey Sam, I talked to her about it and she just doesn't want to be in a relationship right now. Do you have any videos on commitment issues?" And I was like, no, I don't, but maybe I should make some videos about that. Let me know if you'd want to see that. Okay, so this girl also wrote me quite a novel, so I just reread it now and I'm gonna spark notes it for you. But she also experienced kind of like an out of the blue breakup from her boyfriend, and it happened really quickly. He didn't give her much reasoning why. She was really confused, but he just said he needed time to think about things and to really wrap his head around what's going on. And long story short, based on what she was describing the situation as and how he was kind of speaking to her, being like, "You did nothing wrong. I really don't know what's going on. I'm confused. I feel pressure from like all these other pieces in my life." It's really evident that he is facing internal turmoil from a lot of other different things that don't necessarily have to do with her. I think sometimes these situations, while common, can be really jarring and confusing for the other person, because it's like, oh, our relationship is going so well. You say you love me. Why don't you want to be with me? Like, can't I be your support system for all these other things? And while that could be the case, some people really need to prioritize and focus on one thing at a time. I think for a lot of people, including myself, one of the things I really hate is feeling like I'm letting someone down. When you're dealing with a lot of other things and you're stressed out about a lot of things, you know that you're not putting 100% into your relationship or your friendship or school or whatever. And that can kind of signal to you that that relationship needs to stop there in order to preserve the goodness of the relationship itself. A lot of people kind of pull the plug because they don't want to stay in the relationship with the risk of kind of tarnishing all the good that the relationship is. So for example, if this guy stayed in the relationship with this girl who DM'd me, there is a chance of him being really stressed out, taking his frustrations out on her, and really ruining that kind of connection that they have, which was apparently really good. So he kind of told her, like, "I want you to be in my life as my friend, but not my partner because of all the things happening right now." But the kicker is that they weren't friends before. And like I mentioned, I think it's really important to have already been friends with your ex to ensure a smoother transition into being friends with them again, because it's already a habitual act and you know how to be friends with that person. I think it's really hard, and I've never been successful at being friends with my exes that I haven't been friends with before, because all our relationship ever was a romantic relationship. To rebuild a new relationship where a different one was already existing is really hard to override, because you can't just wipe the slate clean and be like, "We're friends now. We've never cuddled or kissed or said I love you," you know? So she basically said, like, "Do you think that it's possible for us to be friends, or what's your advice to set us up for the most success if we do want to be friends, given the fact that we haven't been friends before?" And I pretty much said that, first of all, it has to be a kind of two-sided thing. So if he's saying, "I want you in my life as my friend," but you really valued him as a boyfriend and have really no interest in being friends with him, then that won't work. So make sure that it's two-sided. It's actually something that you want to pursue before jumping into it. And then I also said that while it's really hard to gauge whether they'd be good friends, because I don't know them, obviously, it really comes down to whether or not there's like a really strong piece of the relationship that you want to carry forward with you in your life in a platonic way. So let's say that you and this person have gone through some like serious heartaches or really big like life altering things together, and you just have this special bond from all of the things that you've gone through together, and you know that anything that comes up in the future, this person will be the go-to person that you want to talk to. For sure, try and be friends with this person, because they offered you so much more emotional support that you can carry with you on a platonic level into the rest of your life, if you can obviously separate all the feelings and stuff like that. So really kind of focus on what that person would be bringing into the friendship that you don't currently have, / would be worth going through kind of the heartache and the challenges of trying to integrate your ex into your life. as a friend. Honestly, the worst thing that can happen is you try, it doesn't work, you go your own way, which you were gonna do anyways. So shoot your shot, you know? Okay, this is the last one. I feel like this video is going to be so long, but okay, so this girl DM'd me and she basically said that her and her girlfriend broke up around a week ago. They're in their blackout period and they decided on a time to re-meet and kind of rekindle and get into the conversation of being friends. And her question is it unfair or is it reasonable to kind of expect or ask her ex to engage or see her on like a regular cadence? So can you put that expectation of like, we need to see each other once every 2 weeks or whatnot to sustain this relationship? She was like, is it fair to ask to have a consistent relationship so that you can like guarantee that you'll see them again in the future? Or is that too much of an expectation and something that you can only ask of a romantic relationship? She's just really wanting to go back to the friendship that they had before, but she's also worried of being too pushy and overwhelming. I do not believe that it is realistic to set a regular cadence and set an expectation for hanging out regularly with a friend. There's not a single friend that I have, and you let me know if you have any friends that you have, where I know I will see them every third Saturday of the month. It just doesn't work, and honestly, it barely works for a romantic relationship because life gets in the way, you know? There are so many different things happening in different weeks that it's really hard to stick to a consistent schedule. It also just comes off really unnatural and can be, like she said, a little bit overwhelming and pushy. I kind of spoke to my experience with one of my exes as well, where they kept trying to like schedule future hangouts when we hadn't even done the first hangout, and it just came off as really just like almost possessive and almost controlling because I constantly had to carve out space for this person when I was still healing from the fact that we broke up in the first place. So, but similar to what I said about it's only weird if you make it weird, it's only friendship if you make it friendship. So be really genuine, act the way that you would act with any other friend. And if you don't set up regular hangouts with your friends, then don't set up regular hangouts with this person. Okay, that is all for today's video. I kind of want to do more of these videos. I have a lot of comments on my public YouTube videos, which you could go see, but I think would also be really good for these types of videos to kind of re-speak towards. So let me know if you like this video by giving it a thumbs up or commenting down below, and feel free to DM me or comment or send me any of your life struggles that you want my 2 cents on. I will see you in the next one. Bye.